Hello everybody, this is Ehab and today we're going to talk about the 7 steps that you can take to reach a complete financial freedom. So in order to reach financial freedom or even be on the right path towards that goal, you have to have these steps into your game plan. You don't want financial insecurity to be your destiny. You have to take control back by making simple changes to your finances. That way you take the control back and know every single penny, where you're spending it, how it's being assigned, and you have to budget for it. And remember, you don't work for your money. Have your money work for you. So without further ado, let's begin with the first step. Step number 1, create a budget. Sorry, this is your first and only option. You have to create a budget. If you want to take control back of your finances, you have to have a budget. Dave Ramsey, for example, would say that you have to assign a name for each dollar into your budget. This basically means that you have to assign a purpose for each dollar that you're bringing home and assign it a purpose of what's going to be spent on and where it's going. So that way every dollar has a specific purpose when it comes home and where it's heading. And by creating a budget, that doesn't mean you have to create something complicated. It has to be something very simple. All you have to do is basically put down first all the money that your household brings in per month. That's your total income, take-home money. The second step would be you break down all your expenses by mortgage, bills, utilities, clothing, whatever you spend the money on. And you can simply create a spreadsheet where you have all these things calculated for you automatically, so you don't have to crunch the numbers on a calculator. At the end of this, after you subtract all your expenses from your income in that specific budget, your net amount should be 0. So every dollar is accounted for and every dollar has a purpose, where it's going and what it's going to be doing. So if after you break down your expenses and you still calculate it and you have money left over at the end, the net amount is not 0, then that money has to be assigned to something. And for example, for that money left over, you can, invest it, you can buy stocks, you can save it, you can put it in an emergency fund, you can do anything you want with it. Just make sure you assign a purpose for that money. That way your budget net amount is 0 at the end. Now, the second step would be you stick to that budget that you created. And this is critical because now that you created the budget on paper, it's more difficult to stick to it and follow that specific instruction that you put for yourself. And trust me, I know how it feels at the beginning. It's probably hard for you. It's hard to follow a specific budget, especially if you haven't done so before. Now, the only tip that I can give you about sticking to a budget is don't make yourself feel like you are being choked or being watched every single penny that you're spending. Rather, just change your perspective on it. Just make sure you think about this is a tool that will help you get to the goal that you want, which is essentially the financial freedom. And trust me, there are so many ways that you can save money without having to go through the burden of feeling choked or feeling watched every step of the way, simply by getting rid of unnecessary bills. For example, the 2 gym memberships that you have that you're paying for and you go to neither one of them, please cancel them. And there are so many other examples: Netflix, Hulu, cable, HBO, all these things. For God's sake, how much time do you have to watch that much TV? You can have one subscription for either one of your favorites and you can keep it, but don't have 5 subscriptions. And you get the gist of it. So on and so forth applies to other bills that you have at home that you're probably not paying attention to. You're thinking they're small. It's $9.99, $19.99, whatever the case might be, but they're adding up and eating up your budget on a monthly basis. Now, the third step is to cut down your expenses. And as we just mentioned, there are so many ways that you can cut down on your expenses. It's very easy for you to trim it little by little without having you feeling uncomfortable about it. That way you can save a lot of that money. For example, the major 2 things that Americans spend money on a monthly basis are restaurants and coffee. The ridiculous amount of $5 or $7 a cup of coffee that you get from Starbucks, that one you can actually do at home for like 50 cents, 75 cents maximum. And there are so many calculations that you can do behind that you can think about the $5 or the $7 that you're saving because of a cup of a coffee. And you can think about how much, if you have invested it over the lifetime, how much money you will get at the time you're retired. And you'll be blown away by the numbers. I would understand if you like to get a cup every now and then, every once in a blue moon, but I know a lot of people that this is their daily habit, that before they go to work, they stop by Starbucks and that's what they're getting, period. So just by doing simple math, that $5 a day is $150 a month. And you wonder where the money's going. Now, same applies for eating out. A lot of people eat out on a daily basis. This will not only hurt your finances, but will also hurt your health because this is not healthy for you, that you're eating out every single day. And we know that food cooked outside is not really a proper way to go about your diet. The amount of money that you spend on a restaurant, you probably need 25% of it just to get groceries and cook the same meals at home. Probably will taste even better, healthier for you, and you're saving a lot of money. Now, the fourth step into your financial freedom is no credit card debt. Period. Now, although I don't recommend that you do not get a credit card at all because you'll need it to build a credit. You'll need it to finance something like a house or a car. But you should use it wisely. Credit cards can easily get you into the habit of not feeling how much you're spending because it's a piece of plastic. You're just swiping a card at the machine and you're paying for it without even feeling it. If that was cash, for example, you would have to go to the bank, withdraw the money, put it in your wallet, you go to the store, you count the money, you take it out, and every time you go to the store, you'll know how much you're actually spending and counting the money and how much your wallet is shrinking by every visit to every store. So credit cards will make you numb about how much you're spending, but if you spend wisely and put your bills on the cards and pay it off completely at the end of the month, that shouldn't be a problem. High interest expense can drain your finances without you feeling it gradually and slowly, and you get you deeper and deeper in debt by the minute. So always make sure your credit card balances are zero at the end of the month. Pay it off completely. And if you still have balances left over, make sure you pay it off as soon as possible. Step number 5 is have an emergency fund. Some people will say you have to have $500 or $1,000 on the side as an emergency fund. For me personally, that's not enough to cover an emergency. A simple root canal or even a tire replacement will cost you more than $500, so you'll definitely need more money saved as an emergency fund. So the best way to go about this is to have 6 months worth of your expenses saved up as cash. That way, if you ever get laid off, if you have injury, if you leave the country for whatever reason, or anything that happens as an emergency, you can actually run your life for a good 6 months without any interruptions because you have money saved to cover for all of your regular expenses. Hopefully within that 6 months period, the emergency is gone, and that way you can get back on your feet and you can start replenishing that fund again and again and again. That way you don't have to fall short every time you are having an injury or you have an emergency or whatever the case might be. And most likely, most of the emergencies will not last longer than 6 months. Even if you are laid off, hopefully you can find a job within 6 months period. So I wouldn't make it longer than that. If you can, that's great. But if not, 6 months is a good period of time to go by. Now, the 6th step into your financial freedom is to invest. Now, after you completed all the above steps, which is create a budget, stick to it, no credit card debt, and having an emergency fund, then it is crucial for you to invest that money that you have left over, whatever it is. And this part should be actually part of your monthly budget. You have to set aside some money for investment purposes, whether it's in a 401k, IRA, or even just regular stocks that you're buying as a brokerage account. And remember, you do not touch that money. You just set it aside, you invest it, and you keep it and forget about it. You never tap into it. And you'll be surprised how much little money can grow into based on compounding interest and time, especially if you have a lot of time on your hand. If you're young, then I would highly suggest that you invest as little as $10, $25, whatever the number is. Now, the 7th and the final step is to make it a lifestyle. So basically, you're gonna live your life as this is how it's gonna be for the rest of your life. And again, don't make it feel like torture. Don't overdo it where you're choking yourself. Simply create a budget, stick to it, and then live your life as you normally do. The only exception is that you're watching where the money is going and you're aware where you are spending the money. Don't come at the end of the month and say, I don't know what happened to my salary. It's just disappeared. I just have no idea. And you just have to keep motivating yourself every day that this is one day closer to your financial freedom. And remember, the best way to save money is to spend less than what you actually earn, or to increase your income. And in my opinion, you should do both. You should decrease your expenses and increase your income, whether by getting a side job, whether getting a side hustle, or whatever the case might be. Just on the side so that you can increase your income, and that way when you decrease your expenses, you're actually making the most out of your money. A budget is telling your money where it goes instead of wondering where it went. That should be all for me today. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you're new here, consider subscribing, and until next time.